and I have a forthcoming book of the same title, and that really is about the entrepreneurial journey and learning to build confidence, back yourself, and say imposter syndrome. But without further ado, let us introduce Jessica Dante. And our question is, I would love you, Jessica, to give us your 5-minute pitch on how you came to be on London, but more important than that, what have you been doing and what are you doing now?
Yeah, so I moved to London back in 2013, and this was after I had lived in Italy for all of 2012. So I picked up and I moved over here, and I've been here ever since. And I kind of started my career in the corporate world. I worked for this big travel company over here. And I worked in social media, and I didn't really like it that much. And I knew that I definitely wanted to work for myself, which I've known that for my entire life. So that was not anything new. But once I actually started working in the corporate world, I was like, okay, I definitely value the freedom to be able to work for myself. So in about 5 years ago, I started a YouTube channel and I just started creating videos for people who were visiting London, and with tips that help them to better visit London and how to use the Oyster card and the tube and things to do and things to see. And over the years, I've built that up into a community of people who are either love London or are planning to come over to London at some point. And there's about 160,000 people in that community now. And it's become my job that I do full time. I have a small team of freelancers that help me to produce my YouTube content as well as all my other social media content. We sell paid travel guides. We've had some services that we've offered in the past. We have big plans for when things pick up again for offering experiences and other various different things to do. So yeah, and then on top of that, I also on the side do some consulting and speaking, and I primarily speak to companies both big and small about how you can use video to grow your business.
Amazing. Wow, that is a pretty awesome introduction. So obviously we're quite excited to find out what it's like to be an American in London. And we just wanted to find out a bit more about, when you first arrived or, since you've been here, like how have you kind of, I guess, found the British people to be in kind of like culturally in terms of their nature? Like, do you find them to be outgoing, downbeat, pretty negative? And what are the things that you find, I guess, very different, from America? And what are your joys and your frustrations?
Yeah. So when I first moved over to England, because I had lived in Italy for the year before, which obviously there's a language barrier there, and I would say there was more of a culture shock living in Italy than when I moved over here, which of course had to do with the fact that everyone spoke English here, but also I had lived for a year abroad already. So I was a little bit more adjusted to that. But I found it to be not too difficult in the beginning, like the first couple of years I was here. Obviously, I noticed like there's actually some like major differences in the way that Americans speak versus the way that people in England and the rest of the UK speak. For me, I still to this day am fascinated by the regionality of such a small country, and how different people speak and the different dialects, and different languages, like calling lunch dinner and things like that. That to this day, I am fascinated that, coming from the US with such a big, obviously it's a huge country, we have those differences, maybe not even to that extreme in terms of like different words for things, but we have those differences with, accents and dialects and stuff, but you usually have to travel, at least you got to drive for a few hours for that to happen. Whereas opposed to here, you might have a complete difference from people who are just south of London and then people who are just north of London. So to this day, I find that really fascinating. But I thought the first couple of years when I lived here were pretty, I didn't find them to be super difficult. Obviously, when you first move someplace, it's the whole everything's all shiny still. So it's very like interesting and different and like unique, and it's cool to learn how it works. And obviously you find some frustrations. But I actually found that I ran into some difficulties about 3 or 4 years into being over here, because that's when like the shininess wore off a little bit. And when you move abroad and you have friends and family back in where you're from, it's at that point, maybe not family, hopefully the family's still around, but it's at that point when you kind of start to lose touch with these friends because you don't really see them as often. And of course, as we get older in life, like everybody has lives that change and their priorities change. And unfortunately, if you're not physically present most of the time, it can be very difficult to keep those connections going. And that's like, whenever I talk to anybody that's moved from a foreign country, like the problems they have with like making connections or keeping connections is usually one of their biggest challenges. But if you're able to overcome that, then of course, then you have, you can make some great friends and you can build your own life, which I feel like I've done that here in London.
Nice. Well, let's segue into how have you built up a community in London?
So, do you mean a business community or a friend
Oh,
community?
obviously,
Okay, yes. Okay. So, a friend community. So the thing about working for myself for the last few years is that usually people in London, I feel they make their friends through work. And especially if you're at an age where you're maybe not married or you don't have a partner, or even if you are but you don't have any children to kind of like bring yourself together with other parents, unless you get a dog. Work is like, because people who have dogs, and I'm very jealous of this because I want one. People who have dogs like meet other people with dogs, and it's the same thing with like when you have children. You take the kids to school and stuff, and you talk to your neighbors who have kids, and this and that. So, but since I was freelance and I have been working from home for the last few years, I've not had that, obviously. So I do find it difficult to build up that community, but I have through going to like networking events and meeting people through my work, but not through like the traditional sense of you go into the office, you get to know each other. So it takes a lot more effort because you're not together for 8 hours a day. But those connections can be really strong. In fact, I think all of my really close friends now I've met through work, mostly through work, and then a few through some other acquaintances and stuff. But work for other people who will actually work in a job that they go into an office, that is a really great place. And that's why it's so important to try to find, it's a little difficult right now. Work is work at this point, but when things pick up again, if you can find a workplace where you enjoy the people that you work with, it's really, I would say it's probably more important than like most other facets of finding a job. But that being said, like I said, work is work at this point. So maybe that's a tip for further down the line.
Nice. So obviously you've been here for a while. I want to ask you about British food. Like, what is your favorite British food that you have found interesting?
Oh, okay. Definitely. Oh my gosh. So of course it's definitely Sunday roast. I think that's
Oh,
my
nice.
favorite by far. So I'm vegetarian. So a lot of the like traditional British things like fish and chips and bangers and mash. I did used to love bangers and mash before I was vegetarian. That was really good too. And I did really like steak and ale pie. That was really good too. What's nice is all those things I can actually, besides fish and chips, I have heard of like vegan options for fish and chips, but like Sunday roast, there's so many pubs that do a really good vegetarian Sunday roast. So it's really nice because I can still go out with my friends who are not vegetarians and they'll get a really nice Sunday roast and I'll get a really nice Sunday roast. But yeah, do you want me to explain what Sunday roast is, or do you think
Go for it. Yeah.
everyone's,
No.
yeah, okay. So Sunday roast it reminds me of Thanksgiving in the US, and it's essentially you pick your roast meat. So you can get chicken, you can get beef. You can probably say a little bit more about the meats better than I can, but a few other roast things. Lamb's another one. Pork, and then of course a veggie option. So you pick like you want chicken or blah blah blah, and then it comes that roast meat, and then you get a bunch of sides. So some of the sides are some roast veggies. There's always potatoes, which if they do the potatoes right, they're so delicious. You can get gravy with it. Sometimes they do cauliflower cheese, and it's just like on a Sunday afternoon, especially when it's cold outside. It's just, I think, so nice. And you go to a nice pub and it's so cozy in the pub. And I just love that tradition. It's so good.
Have you eaten a Yorkshire pudding?
Oh, yes. How could I forget the Yorkshire pudding? I'm so sorry. How can I call myself a London expert if I forgot the Yorkshire pudding? Oh my gosh. I gotta go. Unbelievable. Thank you for throwing that in there, Akua, because that was just, how could I not? How could I not? Yorkshire pudding. So that's like,
Yeah.
it's like a pastry kind of, and
Well, that can explain what it is. Yeah.
yeah, and like it's huge. Sometimes it's like this big, and that just sits on your plates, and you can sop up the rest of that gravy, and oh, so
Yeah. It's making me hungry. Well, since we're talking about food and vegetarianism, do you know any great spots to eat vegetarian food in London?
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, so first of all, London is just great in general for vegetarian because most places, even steakhouses, will have pretty good vegetarian options. And we've even gotten the point, like we're to the point where it's not just like we have one risotto for the vegetarian to have. We actually have some really nice, most places will have at least a couple of like unique and actually good options besides a risotto or a salad or something. And actually there's like steakhouses. There's a steakhouse that's called Flatiron Square. It's in Shoreditch. Actually, I feel like it might have been a victim of coronavirus. So I actually don't think we don't need to talk about that one because I'm pretty sure I read that they just closed down, sadly.
Shame.
I know, such a shame, definitely. But I've been to loads of steakhouses even that have really good vegetarian options. But in terms of fully vegetarian places that I think are really good. So there's Mildred's, which is in Soho, and then there's a couple other places. That is probably what I say that's my favorite. In terms of being fully vegetarian, that might be my favorite. There's also Pharmacy, which is in Kensington. I think it's like Notting Hill / Kensington border. And they are fully vegan. It's a really beautiful place, and they're really good for breakfast and brunch because they do an amazing waffle and they do an amazing pancake, and they have a good burger, and yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, in terms of like fully veggie or fully vegan, those are my top two.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to say, I recommend Mildred's too. I've been there and it's very good.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, good. Oh, I'll give you one more too. That's a little bit, it's like a street eat. If you go to Box Park in Shoreditch, or they have a stand on Roof East in Stratford, which is this cool rooftop bar. Oh, so cool. There's a place called Eat Chai, Chay.
Yeah.
And they do fully vegan bao buns, and they're like, every time I go, I always go there. I never go anywhere else when I'm at Box Park. Only them because they're so yummy, and it's pretty affordable too.
That is a good tip, Jessica. I think I'm gonna write that down for later.
Okay, good.
So we have come to the pivotal moment of this session. And that is, Jessica, we have called this session A Shot of Confidence with Jessica and Akua. And what we would love for you to hear, well, not here, everyone to hear, is for you to provide us with, one actionable insight that you have, done, or you'd recommend that will help women to be confident, and they can go away after lunch and be like, yes, Jessica told me to do it, and it's gonna be awesome.
Okay, so I would say something that I've done over the last few years that I've found helped with confidence is, because confidence really, it's a bit of a tough one, because I feel like confidence really more comes from just not caring what other people think, and kind of and releasing yourself from that pressure that you put on yourself, because people might make their judgments, or they might just not even notice you, even if you feel like they're noticing you. So when I kind of wrapped my head around that a couple of years ago, what I did was I just kind of tried to put myself into situations where I would almost practice not caring what other people thought. So on a really easy basic level, I'll sometimes go to eat by myself. Like I'll have dinner at a restaurant by myself, or especially because like sometimes I'll book in to do things, and then if a friend can't go anymore, and I'm like, well, I already paid for this ticket, so I'm just gonna go anyway. And so then once I've done that a couple of times, I'm like, okay, well, I can do that. So what else can I do where, because that was fine. I was okay with that. Nothing happened. Nobody was like looking at me or sneering or feeling bad for me, or at least I didn't notice if they were. So what else can I do? So I always try to think if there's something that pops up where it might just help to like push me out of my comfort zone a little bit and help me to practice not caring what other people think, then I think that's a really good thing to be able to do. And for me, I kind of keep going back to like doing things on my own, because I usually feel I feel like kind of self-conscious sometimes when I like show up at a party by myself, or I show up at an event by myself and I don't have anybody to talk to, and I'm kind of like, I don't know what to do. I feel a bit odd. Everyone else is talking to each other. But the more that I put myself out there, the more I'm like, this is really not that big of a deal. And everyone's in their own world and they're not noticing me. And then I just kind of try to put myself in other situations where I can practice not caring what other people think.
No, Jessica, I love that. Two really, really amazing tips, because obviously not caring about what people think is very hard, and we have to like really like be tough with ourselves and be like, do you know what? I am my own cheerleader, and I am going to be like focused on, myself and my beliefs, and making sure that I am doing what I feel is right, and not worrying about all the other people's views and their this and that, because actually at the end of the day, only you can do what's right for you. So that is awesome. And I love number two, having time by yourself and not feeling weird about it. I really love that, because I used to be a keen solo traveler, and people did look at me and I was like, but you know what, I'm enjoying myself, I'm having fun, why are you taking the time to look at me?
Exactly. And it's easy to say. I understand that it's to just sit here and be like, don't care about what other people think. I don't think it's that simple. Because especially women, we've been conditioned for our entire lives to think about how we reflect to other people that we're meeting and that surround us in the world. So that's why I kind of always I just always try to, if there's something pops up, there's an opportunity for me to just kind of do a little bit of practice of not caring what people think if I'm doing this either on my own, or just maybe it's like, I don't know, like doing an improv class or something that just puts you out of your comfort zone that like usually is like a little bit scary. Then I think that's how you get to that point where you just let everything roll off your back and you don't care about that stuff.
Absolutely. So everyone, we can all practice spending time with ourselves. It's very good for our self-care, by the way, but it's also good for building our confidence, because obviously it's not normal. People don't think that spending time with ourselves in public places is the norm. So let us all give that a go. Okay, I am so pleased with that. That's an awesome tip. Let us move on to the next question, which I'm really excited about. So, Jessica, some of us here are entrepreneurs, and we would love to get some of your wisdom. Tell us a bit about what it's like to build a six-figure business.
Well, it's a long slog. I will say that it takes a really long time, and there's a lot of self-motivation that goes into it. I've had a lot of people over the last few months, because so many people are working from home now and are having to provide themselves with that kind of similar self-motivation that entrepreneurs do. I've had a lot of people say to me, I really don't know how you do what you do, where you wake up every day. Not that 7 a.m. is early, but at the end of the day, if I want to sleep until 9 every day, I could do that, but I also wouldn't be able to build my business to the place that I want it to be. So I've had a lot of comments of people saying like, oh, I really, I realize like how difficult it is. And I don't know how you like motivate yourself for the last 2 years to be able to do that. So it's quite difficult, but I think once it starts to, you see some of the results coming in, and some people joining webinars like this, and writing comments on videos saying like, thank you so much, this is really helpful, or sending emails asking questions and things. That's where you kind of get that motivation to keep going, because you know you're not kind of just doing something that is just gonna go nowhere or nobody's gonna see or anything like that.
Wow, that is pretty awesome. I just want to stick with the theme of motivation. So, like, what, apart from what you've already said, like, helps you to be motivated, and also just to cheer for Jessica and be like, yes, you know what, Jessica is great, despite what anyone else says, or when you have doubt that Jessica is great, what do you do to like back that away?
So, I think a lot of it has to do with just trying to continuously surround myself with people who are doing not necessarily what I want to do, but doing things to progress their career more and more, and that are in the entrepreneur space. Because if I see other people doing it and they're my friends, and or even if I'm listening to podcasts, like sometimes I listen to just Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast just to kind of remind myself, because you know he talks all the time about you have to work, you have to work, you have to work. And I of course have my reservations a little bit about this, the whole hustle culture and stuff, but at the end of the day you do have to work really hard if you want to build something on your own. And I think I just kind of like surround myself with voices that are on a similar trajectory of what I not necessarily want to be doing, but just kind of like they're doing things. They're just doing things. They're continuing to grow, and they're, you know, taking courses to get better. They're booking in to go to conferences and watching webinars, and they're you know, reaching out to people and paying people to consult for them. And I think that's really, that helps with that. And then in terms of the voice in the back of my head that's like imposter syndrome, I wish I had a really good tip for that. To be honest, like I think sometimes I still do deal with that. I think that's like very common for women. Sometimes it just feels like, well, why would this work for me? But why has no one else done this before? Or why would they choose me over somebody else? Or why would they pay me this much money to be able to do this? Like, who am I to be able to ask for that? And I guess the only thing that I can do is I just kind of push through it and just say, well, if it ends up not working out, then it doesn't work out. Otherwise, if it does work out, then I've, you know, can invoice for this much money, or then I get this opportunity or this or that, blah, blah, blah. But I'll not get anything if I don't at least try.
Yes, I'm loving that. I am loving that. I will at least try, because if we don't try, we don't know, and if we don't ask, we don't get. I love that, Jessica. I really, really, really love that. So we are just going to do like one final, just, you know, wrapping up question before we go. And that is, so obviously you've talked about, you know, your business, where you've been, given us some confidence tips. Tell us one thing that you think is wonderful about London. Like, what is really great? A hidden gem.
Ooh, okay. Well, I think overall what I love about this city, and the reason that I will continue to pay the highest rent in the country and one of the highest rents in Europe, is that there's just so much to do here, and there's a huge diversity in the different types of things to do, in terms of different types of food. I mean, you could try any cuisine here in London from any place all over the world. You don't have to go there. You can find usually a pretty good place to have it here. There's always a million different things going on. There's parties going on. There's events. There's, not right now, obviously, but there's festivals, there's markets there. If you get bored in London, you are really not trying, because there's just so much to do. And I couldn't envision living in a place that I didn't have this endless amount of things to be able to explore, that I'll never even be able to scratch the surface, trying to see, you know, for years. So that is absolutely the thing that I love most about London.
Amazing. And then finally, Jessica, because I'm sure that everyone wants to know this, how can they follow you and where can they find you?
So everything London is under my brand, which is called Love and London. And that's, you can find everything our website, Instagram, YouTube. And then for me, I'm Jessica Dante, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. And then also have Instagram is at Jess Dante, and I post general travel tips and things on there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for your time. This has been an awesome chat. I'm sure that everyone agrees that we are filled with confidence and we're excited to try spending some time with ourselves and batting back those fears. When we hear that, look, we're saying, I can't, no, I will try, as Jessica says, and that would be really amazing. So everyone, thank you so much for coming, and yeah, take care and see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.